Welcome back to the Build Show. Finally, we're doing a build. Hey, typical viewer over there on the YouTube side. And then we've got Wana over on Twitch following. Thank you for the follow over there on Twitch. Mike, you made it to the stream. Good job on the build, Ben. My apartment AC broke and temp stayed very cool. Nice. Yeah, they should stay pretty cool on that open loop. And I set those fans to a very aggressive extreme profile. So, should keep that system nice and cool. I have all my lights on? Feels kind of dark. We also rebooted the stream PC. And amazingly, we're not having any issues yet. So far, so good. Anyway, welcome back to the Build Show. I'm your host, Ben Estrina, over here at the Empower Gaming Studio, where we make all the PC builds happen. And tonight, we're going to be building a PC for Mr. Eric. This is going to be build number 74 for the year 2025. Starting to pick up, as it was slow the last couple of weeks. Wait, SLI build? It is not an SLI build. SLI has been discontinued a long time ago, so it is not going to be an SLI. I think SLI was discontinued back in the 2000 series, I think. Was the last time it was around. Maybe available, I think, on 3090s temporarily, or on specific ones, but I don't think it was. I think it was like the 2080s or the 10 series was the last available SLI, and then they dropped it after that. 7 minutes. What did I miss? You didn't miss anything. Just the intro and Ben blabbering on about Mike's open loop PC that we delivered to him today. So we dropped off that PC, and Mike's hopefully playing Escape from Tarkov, because I think the download was taking a little while right before I left. Looked like a 2-hour download. So anyway, the explanation for the dual GPUs that you see here is monitor count. We have a lot of monitors that we're going to be running, so we just went with two simple RTX 5060s. Yes, there are other solutions out there that you could do to make other monitors work, but this was one of the easier solutions for what we're doing on the PC. So, but it is not going to be an SLI, as that does not exist anymore, and most applications and games today don't even support SLI anymore. That's been dropped off a long time ago, unfortunately. Unfortunately, in a way that, you know, if you want to put dual cards in, you're not going to run them as a team like SLI would have. They will run separately, so in this scenario, if you think you're going to get 16 gigs of VRAM, you're not. The application's only going to recognize the one card that it's running on, which you could assign different cards for different tasks. So let's say you want physics on one and rendering on another, you could do that, and it splits the load. But I don't know how well that would actually work or perform in a gaming environment. I've never actually tried that. But for the monitor count that we need, we have 2 cards. And like I said, there are other solutions. Yes, you could do USB-C or Thunderbolt or some other display port option. But with his current setup, this was the ideal option. The CPU has onboard graphics that will run a monitor. Yes, it does. It does. But we need to run, I think it's 6 monitors total. We know for sure we could run 4, and I guess we could have ran 2 from the CPU. But I wanted to give him the option for upgrades in the future, so you can add more monitors. This was the idea, anyway, behind the build. Originally. 2 GPUs, neat. Yeah, this is going to be a unique build. Not for gaming. This PC is not going to be used for gaming, though it looks like it should be used for gaming. It is not going to be, unless he plans on playing some games on it that I'm not aware of. But for the most part, this is going to be used in his office. So, the CPU has onboard graphics. Yeah, exactly. Oh, good. Let's see here. Greetings, Mr. Chef over there on Twitch. Orcheslower, hey, what's up? Welcome to the build stream, or the build show. Welcome back. I was thinking display, like, for business presentations was my first thought. That's kind of the direction we're going, Born. And yeah, we probably could have just used the CPU. But, we've got 2 GPUs. So, let's go ahead and run through the specs real quick for those of you who did not type !build in the chat and receive the specs or read those. We're going to start off with the CPU, which is a AMD Ryzen 9 9950X, which is 16 cores, 32 threads, and a 5.7 gigahertz max boost. We also have the Thermalright AM5 contact frame over here, if you didn't see that, as well for the PC or for the CPU. And we'll be replacing the stock brackets that come with the motherboard with that contact frame. Thermal paste is going to be the Arctic MX6, which is included with the Liquid Freezer 3 Pro by Arctic. The 360mm AIO. We're going to be mounting that on the top of the case, and that has 3 120mm PWM addressable RGB fans, and it also has a VRM fan and also has offset mounting for AMD, so it's a little offset centering up on the hotspot of the CPU, which is nice. So it's a really nice cooler, I think, for the CPU, or for any AMD CPU for that matter, AM5. These do not come, I don't think, they come with standard, I don't know if this is correct or not, but I'm pretty sure these do not work with AM4. Or at least I didn't see support on them in the support list. You have to actually go look at that and triple verify. Motherboard is the Gigabyte X870E Aorus Elite. We can move my big head out of the way and show you the board. Get out of the way, Ben. Move, Ben. Get out of the way. Get out of the way, Ben. Get out of the way. If you guys caught that. But it's the Aorus Elite Wi-Fi 7 ATX motherboard. This has a ton of features on it. A lot of I/O features, USB options on the back, which is what we want. We want the faster Wi-Fi, and of course, future-proofing. It's got PCIe 5.0, along with the 9000 series CPU, which is important for our SSD because we're going to be running a Samsung 9100 Pro, which is a PCIe Gen 5 SSD. And then we're also going to be running, for the RAM, 64 gigs of DDR5, 6000 megahertz CL30. This particular kit is on the QVL list for the motherboard, so we verified that, of course, before we purchased. We're going to be using the 2 RTX 5060s in the build, and we have a 850 watt A+ gold power supply, which is more than enough power to power this system. And we're going to be building in a Montech Air 903 Max, as well as adding 2 additional bottom fans if they fit with the 2 GPUs. I'm going to be lurking. I will work on my cable management for my build while I listen. This will be Zen. Nice. Zen, Ben. Ben, Zen, Ben, Zen, Ben. Hey, what's up, Steve Anderson? Welcome back to the Build Show. Hey, everyone. I fixed the 7900 XT for the last time. I installed Linux drivers, more stable than the ones for Windows. That's interesting. Steve, you might want to answer some more questions there, because there's a lot of questions I'm sure everybody are going to have about the Linux drivers that are being more stable than Windows. Ben is a Kung Fu master at cable management. Sometimes I try, Mike. Sometimes I try. Ant-Man, were you... Hey, what's up, Ant-Man? Welcome to the Build Show. Ant-Man, were you just on Nerd on a Budget? I think he was. I feel like Nerd and I always stream on the same days. Nerd on a Budget and I seem to stream all on the same days. I don't know why that ends up to be, but it does. But it's okay. It's funny how it works out. Anyway, without further ado, we can get started on this build. But I do want to give you all a quick update here. If you aren't in the Discord channel, I did drop an update for my upcoming schedule. We have several builds this week that we're going to be doing. So we have a build tonight, of course, and we have a build tomorrow night, and we have a build Friday night. So tonight, Wednesday night, Thursday night, Friday night, Oops, I just accidentally flipped everybody off by mistake. Sorry about that. And then we'll also have possibly an early stream tomorrow around 3 p.m. because I do have a customer pending if he gets all the parts over to me early enough tomorrow, where he bought all his parts and he wants me to do the build. And I told him I'd try to do it and stream it tomorrow around 3. So 3 p.m. Eastern time, we might go live early, and then finish that build and then go live again around 8 p.m. Eastern time to do another build. So there might be a dual stream double header tomorrow, but they're not going to be back to back because of my current schedule of things. So the only time I'll have to do it is around 3 p.m. So that's a total of 4 builds this week that we'll be doing on the stream. And then after that, Saturday, I'm basically running around like a madman, getting everything packed up, and then we're going camping on the 27th. So the Empower family will be on vacation from the 27th all the way until the 12th is when we are technically back and up and operational and working again. But just to give you an idea, it's going to be a pretty crazy week, and then all of a sudden, I'm going to drop off the face of the earth, probably, just for a couple of weeks. It's an annual family vacation that we go to every year, and it's always the same time of the year. So usually it's the first and second week of August, and that'll probably never change. So it'll be nice to get away from the grind, the computers, the builds. I don't really want to talk about computer parts when I'm on vacation, but we might fit a Q&A stream somewhere in there if my laptop can handle it, and if I have the bandwidth. If I don't have the bandwidth on 4G where I'm at, then we're not going to be able to do it. So, and it will be very limited hardware, so I'll have limited microphone, limited audio, anything. I'll have limited everything. I won't have all this fancy stuff with me. And this stuff is definitely not very mobile. So just to give everybody a heads up, that is what we will be doing over the next 2 weeks after the next 4 builds that you will see. So if you like an early build, like maybe you're getting off work tomorrow, come on in, catch a build early. In real life camping streams, maybe. I don't know. I don't know how good that would do with the algorithms on the channel, because I know it does weird stuff. But maybe we'll do something special on one of the other channels, or drop a couple videos, updates on YouTube. I don't know, in the members chat or the members section. Okay, so without further ado, let's go ahead and get started on Eric's build here, and we will get this thing built once and for all. We're going to get started with all this, which is, except for these don't need to go in there yet. But we're going to get started with the motherboard, CPU, RAM, SSD, and our contact frame, and then we'll also grab our mounting brackets for our AIO. Get that installed as well. I installed a Pop OS. Oh, nice. You install Pop OS. They pretty much do it all for you. System 76. Nice. Linux always been growing over time. It's getting better and better. There was at some point I was going to switch over to Linux and then stay on Linux, but then I ran into some support issues with a couple of applications, and it gave me a reason to stay on Windows. And that was back in like 2008, I want to say. It was a while. It was a long time ago. can't remember what version of Linux it was. But it was a long time ago. So, okay, let's center that up. So what we're going to do is install our Ryzen 9 9950X. I have to make sure I say it right. Which has got the 16 core count, 32 threads. It's a beast of a CPU for the AMD lineup. The only thing, I guess, better than this CPU for this lineup is the 3DFX, or the 3D, the V. Can't talk all of a sudden. The 3D V cache, which would be the better of the two, but for what he's doing, he doesn't need the extra cost in the 3D V cache. Was not a necessity. Originally, he wanted to go Intel with an Intel i9 14900K. That's originally what he was asking for. And I did talk him into going AMD. So, I think that was a good thing. At least I feel like it was a good choice. My snips aren't over here. Found them. Hey, what's up, Caden? Welcome back to the build show. We are doing a build tonight, and then we'll be doing another build tomorrow afternoon, and then we'll be doing another build tomorrow night, and then we'll be doing another build the following night. Lots of builds. Build, 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 build. We dropped the CPU in there just to cover up the pins to protect them while we install our contact frame. We don't want the pins exposed, obviously. So usually I always just drop the CPU in there and then put the contact frame on there, instead of removing the bracket and then putting the CPU in. I always recommend putting the CPU into the socket just to protect the pins. Obviously, don't move the board around when you are doing this process, so make sure it's in a flat surface that you can work on. My arm is tired. My arm's tired and I'm all shaky. Okay, that is completed. Now, I'm going to go ahead and install our RAM and our SSD, which again, we're going with 64 gigabytes of DDR5 6000 megahertz. This is the G.Skill Flare, I'm sorry, we originally were going to put Flare X in the system, but Eric had mentioned after he placed the order that he did want to see the RGB. So I did change him over to this Trident Z5 Neo RGB kit, which was maybe $10 or $15 more. But for the extra RGB, why not? I would pick that one over the one with the 3D V cache anyway, basically, because it's a waste of money. Yeah, it could be. I think the 3D V cache on the Ryzen 9 9950X3D is a little bit much. We do use them in the Titan. Would help if I was going to put the RAM in the right direction. And those go in slots A2 and B2 naturally. Alright, next up is our storage, which is going to be a 9100 Pro by Samsung, which is a PCIe Gen 5 SSD, giving us a 14,700 read speed. I don't know what the write is actually rated at, but I think it's pretty close to that same number. I think it's like 1200 or 12,000. But it's a ultra fast drive, almost doubling most Gen 4 drives. So super snappy drive. When we come out, or when they come out with a new SSD like this, I generally don't trust any other brand when it first comes out until it's a little bit more matured and bugs are worked out. So usually I always end up with Samsung early on, and then I'll start testing other brands and products. And one of the main reasons why is because of Samsung's warranty process is very easy, and they're just usually a quality product almost all the time. Hey, what's up, Eric? This is my build he is doing, and yes, I am running 6 32-inch HP Pavilion monitors. Yes, plenty of monitors. So we are going to be putting this in, I believe, the top slots. We should double check, but I'm fairly certain, based off of my homework, which I will double check, this is the correct location for our PCIe Gen 5 SSD. It should not impede our performance on the X16 slot. Though in our situation, we will be building with 2 cards, so there will be 1 card with half the bandwidth at least. But that's okay, we're not using it for performance, we are using it for the monitor. Yeah. There we go, we got our heat spreader on the SSD, and the SSD is installed. But I will double check that. Sounds good. These streams are awesome. Thank you, Caden. Caden. Man, I cannot talk today. I would, 3dB cache on is pretty much to compete with Intel top end. Yeah. I'm running 5 monitors. What do you do with 6 monitors there? He's in real estate, right? Yep, that's why we are running the 2 cards. So, and I picked this board specifically because there's a large gap between the 2 slots, and it also has full, I forgot, we can't see that, but we have a large gap between the 2 slots here, and we have full 16, even though it's not pinned. This is actually, I think, by half of it, or less than half of it. Might be by 4. It'll work nonetheless. So, alright. Now that that is done, we can go ahead and get these stock brackets removed, because we have to replace those with the Arctic brackets for the AIM 4 or AIM 5 mounting. And yes, this is something you could do later on. I just like to do it now, since I have easier access to the board right now. Makes sense to do it. Which means we're going to go ahead and get our Arctic Liquid Freezer 3 Pro 360 millimeter addressable RGB cooler out. I think originally I quoted them the regular one, not the Pro. But these ones are the only ones that are currently available. And that is a Arctic manufacturing problem. They seem to go ham on one product and only make that one product for like a month or two, and then they'll switch back and forth on those products, on their products. So I think they manufacture most of their stuff on their own. And that's why that happens. If I'm not the only one that noticed that, I'm sure. But it's okay. It's a beefy cooler for a beefy CPU. Nonetheless, Pro is just a little bit bigger. Could fit in the case. I actually don't know if I put an Arctic Liquid Freezer 3 Pro. We're just getting our hardware out. Not a gamer. But maybe this PC will make him a gamer. He'll be at the office working hard. For extended hours. Alright, so just a reminder on the Arctic Liquid Freezers, you'll see two brackets for AM5. You'll have a left side, which is marked with an L, and you'll have a right side marked with an R. The offset mounting puts the, I guess the threaded hole here towards the bottom of the CPU. That's what the offset mounting is. But really, you just put these black spacers in over the studs on the board, and then we put the screws in the bracket, and then start mounting the bracket. If you don't have an ultra magnetic screwdriver like this, LTT store screwdriver, then you might have been able to do it a lot smoother than me. So that's our left side, and now we'll hit the right side, and then we'll have our mounting brackets for our cooler prepped for later. Double checking the tension. All right, and that is good to go. Later. And now we are ready to get the, well, let's peel these off real quick. Then we are ready to get the case out. Oh. But there was a peel sitting there. That was it. Just the one. Let's get the case. This is a Montech Air 903 Max. It's a pretty basic ATX, modernized basic power that I like to use a lot because the value that you get out of the case itself is very good. Maybe we should zoom out. Yeah. Might be good. Okay, so this is our Montech 903 Max, which is a pretty sizable ATX mid tower, but it's your basic tower. So features a front mesh with 3 140mm PWM addressable RGB fans. We got the tempered glass side panel so you can see inside the system. It also includes a 140mm black PWM fan on the rear. Also, a very nice addressable RGB / fan hub on the back side. The front I/O offers you your typical USB-C and your USB 3.0 headers that you want to see, and then a split audio connection between your microphone, headset, your reset button, and then a hardware controlled button for your LEDs for your fans if you want to control it with the button. This is syncable. The hub is syncable to the motherboard, so you can sync it up to the software, and of course your power button. You could fit up to a 360mm radiator on the front. I believe you can squeeze a 420mm on the front, and then you can also add 2 additional 120mm fans on the bottom here, which it does include the screws as well. So lots of fan options and radiator options on this case. And there's the hub that I was talking about earlier, which gives you a fan hub and addressable RGB hub, which makes plugging everything in super easy. Very simple case to build in. Has 2 2.5-inch SSD trays here, and then it can support up to 2 3.5-inch drives down here at the bottom in the drive cage. So you can mount one on the top and inside for sure. You can also reposition this cage closer to the back of the PC, but it comes pre-mounted all the way forward, which is a nice touch by Montech, thank you. So then you can very easily install your power supply and utilize the basement space for some of your additional cables, which is a nice touch. You can also mount 2 additional 2.5-inch drives right here on the side if you needed to. That is an option, so you can have up to 4 2.5 inches and 2 3.5-inch drives in the system for storage if you wanted to use that many drives. Typically today, everything's NVMe M.2s, so pretty rare to see SATA anymore being used, or 2.5 or 3.5-inch drives. Okay, so with that being said, we are ready to actually gently place the motherboard in here. Teasing Mr. Z-Lord. Zoki, I can't remember what his actual name is. Hey, what's up, Jeffrey C? Welcome back to the Build Show. So 5 to keep track of things, and 1 for research. Yeah. You double in the dark, you dabble. Hey, is this PC a 5060 Ti 16 gig in it? No, it's got 2 RTX 5060 8 gigs. So no, it's not going to total out at 16 gigs, but it's for the monitor count, really. I'm a Firefox and Brave fan. Also, you won't find Google Chrome in my machine. I've got all of them on my machine, unfortunately. So, I built my last setup, been a few years. Ben has a great rep, so he's my main guy now. Well, thank you. Yeah. Yeah, no, it's been really... I do like getting the opportunities to build things like this, because it's something different than gaming piece. I have to take this off in order to access that screw or that mounting point. But all the studs were already in place from Montech, so thank you very much, Montech, for having that prepped for us. Makes building a lot easier for the ATX motherboard. Alright, so next we are getting the hardware out of the hardware kit that came with the case, so I can get this mounted. Have to find the right screw for this, for mounting this board. Nope. And now we mount the board to the case with 9 screws. 9 different mounting positions, points. I got my builds done, waiting the timer on your Discord to show it off. Oh, nice. Nice. Done waiting the timer on your Discord. What's the timer on my Discord? Or did you already post it there? And nice. Can't remember what build you were doing, Jeffrey C, for some reason. Unfortunately, guys, you gotta remember I'm getting old. And I talk to a ton of people about PCs and builds, so I may not always remember. I try, though. I do try. As soon as you... 10 minutes, got it. As soon as you tell me what it is, I'll be like, oh yeah, that's right. That's kind of where my brain's at right now. My mind is all over the place. Trying to keep up. The days get filled very quickly. It just seems like there's just never enough time in a day to get it all done. But I do generally get most of it done. 2 Asus B850s. Interesting. Like, as in the motherboard, or are we talking, talking something else? Alright, so we got our board mounted. Go ahead and put our heat spreader, heat sink back on our SSD. This just slides into the slot, pushes down, and there's a little locking mechanism here that locks it. So it's toolless, which is cool. Grab these screws and put them back in the bag because we don't need them anymore. At least these ones. Gotta keep the hardware cleaned up here to focus on. Okay, so with that being done, next step is to get all of our front panel connectors plugged in. So we've got USB 3.0, and we've got USB-C, and then we've also got our front panel power reset switch. In addition to that, we have a hub that needs an addressable RGB sync cable and a fan sync cable and our front panel HD audio. Then we could also plug in our EPS cables, because once we put the radiator in here, it's going to be really hard to get there. So I'm going to probably plug our EPS cables in as well before we do the radiator or AIO. So this is our sync cable and our, well, both of our sync cables for the fans and the RGB for that hub. We already know exactly where those are going. So basically, one goes here, the RGB goes over here. We're just going to thread those through so that they're ready to go. Before we flip the PC over and plug those in, we're going to thread the rest of the cables so those are ready to go as well. Okay. We got our front panel connector. Goes here. We have our USB for our HD audio, which is going to go all the way over here. And what's this one? Reset switch. Also going here. At the bottom. Then the USB-C, USB 3. Remember, thread it back up here. But it's basically going to go up here towards this top hole. If I remember correctly. I'm going to actually double check. The USB 3 actually going to be down here. That's wrong. USB-C, however, is up here. And then before I do that, I'm going to get my EPS cables out and thread those through. We're going to pop the power supply open, get those cables out. I put a bigger Thermalright cooler on my 5800X 3D. No more. It's in the 70s now. It will not go over 60 Celsius now. That's nice. That's pretty good, Steve. That was the right move. There, get out of my way. Guess I'm just gonna get the power supply out here. Eliminate another box. All right, search for those EPS cables. That's an EPS. That's a 24 pin. And another EPS. Here we go. May as well do the 24 pin since we're here. Along with our EPS. CPU power. I'm still working on the first two cables, like taking my time. Something I enjoy doing. Nice. Yeah, take your time. There's no rush. Rush at all. The only time you rush in PC building is if you're racing against a clock. I've been there before. Not racing today. Oh. Okay, we got our EPS cables in, so those are good to go. Our USB-C front panel. I always try to plug these things in backwards like 18 different times before I figure out which way it actually goes. So I'm always worried about damaging the connector. It's pretty frail. This is our 24 pin. This is what powers our motherboard. Motherboard power. There we go. Then we've got our USB 3.0 front panel connector, which I'm just going to flip it around like this and plug it in the side. motherboard also has another option. Crap. There goes one of our cables. No, it has another option down here at the bottom for USB 3. We're not going to use that. We're going to try to install 2 fans at the bottom. Might get in the way. So next I'm going to do the HD audio, which only goes in one way. There's a notched pin on that, so you really can't mess that one up. And then our addressable RGB sync cable back to our hub. Plug that in. Only plugs in one way as well. And our PWM fan connector for our hub. Can't read which system fan connector that is, but we'll find out in the BIOS later. And then our front panel power reset LEDs. We get plugged in here. If you don't know which pins go to what, sometimes on most boards it's labeled. Generally labeled on all the boards. And if you're still not sure, usually your motherboard manual will have a diagram, and if you did not receive a motherboard manual in your motherboard box, it means you have to go online and go to the manufacturer's website and get it from there. It'll generally have a diagram that'll show you which pin is for what, and you have to pay attention to that. But for the most part, on all motherboards, it's pretty much the same. Same pinout. There we go. Got all of our connections plugged in, ready to go. So now we can focus on getting this AIO installed. Liquid cooler. The Arctic Liquid Freezer 3. So basically, we're going to be putting it in, the tubes are at the front. One last thing I wanted to do actually before we do that, plug in our connectors to our CPU fan headers and pump header, get all that plugged in. Really quick, do that at the top of the case, or top of the motherboard. Most motherboards have them labeled pump, fan, CPU fan, and CPU fan OPT option, which is optional. I use the VRM fan on the CPU fan optional, and I use fan connector on the CPU fan header. And pump is for the AIO pump. Control the pump speed, or give you the ability to control the pump speed, which is nice. Also acts as an indicator. If your pump fails and it stops reading your pump, it'll tell you, which is nice. Okay, so now move this over here. You can see me screw in 18 bazillion screws just to hold this thing in. And for the record, the Montech Air 903 Max holds it very nicely. Fits very nicely in here. It's a nice roomy case. Now I'm not going to screw that one down all the way off the rip because I want to get everything kind of centered up as much as I can before I start tightening things down. I'll put one on one end, then another screw on the other end, and then I can stop holding the radiator at that point, and then I'll get the four corners at least set. So it kind of centers up the rest of the lineup here. And then we'll start screwing it in. Tightening it down. Somehow screwed it up still. Didn't listen to my own advice. Hey, what's up, Xeon? The Cyber F-Wagon. How's it going? Welcome back to the Build Show. Dacus Rick. Hey, how's it going? Welcome back to the Build Show over there on Twitch side. Can I get y'all opinion on my haircut? My mom think it looks terrible. LOL. I think the last time I saw you, Ant-Man, you were pretty bald. Like you didn't have any hair. Magna BHB. That's very cool. Didn't know there were contact frames for the puzzle piece. AMD. Yes. So the contact frames really don't do any major benefit to playing. Although, what it does help with is keeping the thermal paste out of those cracks. The puzzle piece design by AMD. So as you put the thermal paste on and it slides down the side of the CPU, kind of keeps the thermal paste out of there. And why does this thing just not want to be lined up on these holes? Like too far to the left or too far to the right. Doesn't want to be perfect. It fixed itself. Hello, I must have had a train memory or something. Oh, for booting up for the first time? Yeah, it might. First time boots with DDR5, you might have about, depending on what version of the BIOS you have on the motherboard too, Jeffrey. If it's like an old version of the BIOS, you could be sitting there for up to like 5 or 10 minutes waiting for memory to train. Hey, what's up, Burden? Hello, hope you're doing well. I'm doing good. How about you? Welcome back to the Build Show, where Ben loses his mind building a bazillion PCs. It's an annual event. When does Ben crack? Probably towards December. That's usually when it happens. It's okay to post in the Discord. Yeah, go for it. If you're willing to post your face on the Discord, that's your call, bro. I'm not worried about it. All the Xmas shopping, exactly, all the Christmas shopping that happens, which is a wonderful thing if you're a PC builder. And, you know, people are waiting for Christmas. The bad thing is there's sometimes it gets so busy, you start wondering if you can get it all done when the orders come in. You're like, holy smokes. And then you're building them at like 4 a.m. every day, basically building until you drop, pass out. And then by the time you're getting around to like your 50th build in, you know, the 2 to 3 weeks that people place orders, you start talking to yourself, and then you start getting concerned. Then you start seeing things. Like I thought I saw a screw there. So, yes, Christmas around the holidays, it gets a little stressful. But I mean, for the most part, it's been manageable. I think 2023 was probably the worst holiday season ever. I was doing builds pretty late. Streaming them too. I streamed every single one of those. Alright, so we're going to use the MX6 by Arctic for our thermal paste here. Just remember, the very tippity top of the CPU is not going to be covered because of the slight offset that this cooler offers. So, don't really need to get too much paste up there. Make sure we have paste on the hot spot that it is going to center up on, though. That'll spread nicely when we apply pressure as we mount the cooler. I've already peeled the bottom, but that's our cold plate with our copper. And pull this out here. Well, this is where it gets a little bit tricky to install this cooler. Leading up to now, it's been very easy to install this cooler, as you can see. But this is where it gets tricky. So we want to line up these two screws to those two threaded poles best we can. Then take a screwdriver, use a little bit of pressure, get the thread started. Once you do one side, kind of a pain in the arse to get the other side. But if you don't start the thread far enough, it'll just pop out on you. And if you do that too many times, you actually damage the threads and it's harder to get it threaded again. But I've done a few hundred of these, I feel like. So we're good. Probably more like 100 of them. We're actually keeping record. Okay, and then this is the connector that connects to the fan headers on the motherboard for our pump, our CPU fan, and our VRM fan, which is going to be on that little thing that we're going to add to it in a moment. This needs to be actually, do recommend plugging this in before you put it on. Once you put it on there, it's kind of a pain in the butt. Go. Okay, we got it. And then this is our addressable RGB, which will route back to the hub. But the hub controls both software and hardware connectors. So if he pushes a button, all the fans will react the same, which is going to give him a nice unified experience if he pushes the hardware button. Just tie these cables up a little bit, clean them up. You see what I'm doing here, I'm just keeping the zip ties spaced out pretty evenly, and then I'm also making sure the tie is facing the same direction. Very aesthetically fine zip ties. Makes it look like it should have been there. Yes sir, sick build Ben. Yeah, what's up man? Welcome back to the build show. 5% better temps overall. I don't know if it gains that much better temperature with AMD, but I know for sure Intel, there's a big gain. All my lights just recently stopped working, lol. Do hubs go bad on the RGB? They can, Dankest Rick, they can. Yeah, hubs can burn out, because power does run through them, and just like any other electronic, they can burn out. But that is a pretty cheap solution if you need help getting that replaced. Dankest Rick, feel free to reach out to me. Burden says, doing well, finally added my LGA 1700 bracket. Nice. Definitely a good gain on that. I think that might have been actually what Burden was talking about. This is the Intel LGA 1700 bracket, not the EMI bracket. That's what happens when Ben reads the chat from the earliest to the latest. Sorry about that, guys. Oh crap, I just mixed up all the dud zip ties with the new one, so I'll pick up one and it'll be a cut one. Nice. Okay, so with that being completed, got some more peels on the fans here. Pretty sure. Yes, there are. There we go. And then we could put the VRM fan slash RGB thingamabopper. I think it took a surge the other day and had a few things go wrong. Power supply on the mother, on my monitor burnt out, and my work laptop. Oh, geez. I wonder if it was. That's pretty bad. There is that. I'm sorry to hear that, Dankus Rick. RGB stopped then, but PC's running perfect. Yeah, it's probably just the hub. Be thankful that's all it was in the PC that went out. Because, man, you know, there's other more expensive components. Yeah, you could buy a Thermalright hub, for example. Thermalright has a hub, very easy to install and set up and use for pretty much any fan. It depends, of course, which fan you have. Dankus Rick, I'm not sure off the top of my head. But if you have standard addressable RGB fans with the 3-pin, just like I installed here, that are on this case, then you can definitely use a Thermalright hub, and they're like 12 bucks on Amazon, so it's pretty cheap fix. And there we go. We have our AIO installed. So now we're super top heavy. Look at that, it's starting to look like a piece of work coming together. So now, what I want to do is, we could probably get the cards installed because we have multiple of those. And then we could do the power supply. And then, actually let's put the cards in place, but not mount them, just to see if we could those bottom fans in. So if we could get those bottom fans in, I want to do that. Add a little bit of intake to the bottom of the cards. Looking good. What do you do? Wait, what do you do with the unused Intel contact frames left? I have a few here, and I have found ways to go through them. And that is people that have purchased or built Intel builds, or came to me with an Intel build and said, hey, I want to just have you build it, and I'll bring all the parts. And then I end up finding out that they don't have a contact frame, and I talk them into spending $5 on a new contact frame. So I usually have a few of them on hand at a time. Hey, what's up, Sang? Welcome back to the build show, sir. Yeah, we'll be doing a build for somebody in this chat here in the next couple days. Well, dang it, took a nap, slept for too long, but I made it. No worries, Roy. Intel for the win. Always get yourself a surge protector. Surge protectors are good investments for your PC. Always good investments. So I'm gonna put this bottom fan in, or bottom card in, should I say. And we're gonna see what kind of space we have at the bottom here. See if we can still fit those two fans. So I wanna get the fan in there. I didn't think about this, unfortunately. Might have to swap out the 15mm fans. I do like the Zotac Gold Solid series, where it's just gold. I do like that. Just saying. Yeah, I don't think we're gonna... I don't think we're fitting a bottom fan there. I don't think that's gonna work. Even a 15mm would be tight. So, we're gonna have to do without those. Kinda wanted them there, but it's not gonna fit. Not enough clearance, I'll show you guys here in just a moment. Let me button this down. Pretty tight, but it is meshed down here, so it'll be able to breathe, even though it's really close to the bottom. Yeah, we're not getting a 15mm in there either. Gonna be a tight fit. The good news is it's gonna give us plenty of space in between the two cards. That's a benefit. Yes, 2 cards. We're doing 2 cards. The monitor count. You can also do a lot of different things with 2 cards. You can set one card to do one thing and another card to do another. Or rendering, or all sorts of stuff. A lot of streamers actually use 2 graphics cards in their system. One that handles the stream and the other one handles a game. Can you mount the fans underneath, under the mesh? No, because it would be in the way of the power supply at that point, so we can't do it that way. Although I did think that. But it's good thought, Chef. Unfortunately, the power supply is there. I could flip the power supply around, have the fan facing up, which would mean it would be drawing air away from the GPU, which is what we kind of want. So these are split apart pretty nicely. I'm not going to worry too much about the temps, because if they were right on top of each other, it would be a bigger problem. And that's why I selected this board, because I knew this card was going to be lower. What I didn't take into account is how much lower it was. But I knew there was going to be a gap, which is what I wanted to see, obviously. And of course, there's a few other boards that have the same setup, but the only thing we could have done is gone into a much larger case, but then it wouldn't have fit in his physical location where the case is going to go. I tried to keep it as close dimensions as he has in his current case as possible. Stop. Okay, so next we can run our PCIe cables for the cards. Get those to the back. Then it's a single. That's a single, which is what we want. This is also a single. Okay. I think how we're going to do this is simply run it right over here. Something like that. Oh, Max is, he was hanging out here. Max is hanging out over on the chair. In the other room, actually. Nice dual GPU build. Hey, what's up? He's not a gamer. No, he's not. Boy, that barely has any air to breathe. Wow. It's mesh underneath here, so it'll be able to breathe. Guess who's back? What's up, Bazooka Builders? Welcome back. Feel free to show off the computers in Discord, Steve. Filter cover. The IO cover reminds you of a hot rod carburetor filter cover. Yeah, it's pretty cool. I always feel like Tony Stark when I remove this and plug it back in, like it's the heart, because you can do it live while it's on, and it starts glowing when you plug it in, which is cool. Okay, let's get the power supply installed now. Oh. When you get time, check the Discord. I'll take a look at it. Probably at the end of the build here. Not much eating hamburger helper. Nice. Actually sounds really good right now. I haven't really eaten today. I came home, ate one piece of pizza and had to leave again. That was pizza, like, I don't know, 6 hours ago now. I'm a little hungry. One piece of pizza. And I thought I was going to have some more time to maybe eat something before the stream, but that didn't happen. Ran out of time. So does it work like SLI? No, it does not work like SLI. It doesn't work like SLI at all. You can utilize the cards for different tasks in applications. So let's say you're streaming and you want to handle the encoding and decoding on one card. You could separate that from your gaming card. You could do that. Or let's say you're rendering videos and you want to render your videos on a separate separate card versus CPU doing other things like data transfers and things. You could do that. Separate them. And then, you know, there's other 3D modeling things that you could do as well with it. There's a lot of use case scenarios that you could use it, you know, dual card with, but it's not going to act like a team like SLI would. Like double the graphics card, double the power. It's not actually what happens. It's just two separate cards. And that's how the application will treat it, is two separate cards. Doesn't have the support for teaming up, so to speak. Yes, it is for the monitor count. Is mostly what it's for. Okay. it in here. I remember seeing that at some point. Did I accidentally throw it out? Imagine if SLI was still around and you're the guy with two RTX 5090s in your build, just walking around. Imagine that. That would be silly. In a way, yes. Yes, it would be silly. But two RTX 5090s in your build. An SLI. That'd be dope. Too bad that's a technology long gone. A little bit of cable management magic happening, and then we'll button it up and get this thing fired up and see what it looks like. See if it posts. I remember the chem lab at my university rocked a three Titan cards. Oh yeah. the triple SLI move. That 2 cards was crazy. Run 3. You're walking around pretty high and tall with 3 cards. The higher the quality the power supply, the better the cables are. Let me tell you, holy smokes. That's without running any functional wise, anything functional wise. Nice burden. Server boards with 4 cards. I've been doing my Windows debloating setups. Got Windows 11 to run 23% faster so far. That's pretty cool. I'll have to figure out what you're doing to debloat. Curious to learn more. Hey, what's up, Tat Daddy? Thank you for the resub. Prime, 4 months in a row. Much appreciated, sir. Wick fams, since you mentioned BIOS updates, I went and checked, and I was on a BIOS from the start of 2024, just to update the latest. Now my PC doesn't have to train memory every boot, which is nice. Yes. Very good, Wick fam. Save some time. That did change over time, so they stopped needing... It's actually not a memory training. It's not that memory training has stopped. It's just the fact that the BIOS remembers the last memory train, so it doesn't have to do it over and over and over again. So it still has to do that anytime you change the memory. It'll still have to do a memory training session, but it is a lot faster. What's up, Flash? welcome back to the Build Show, sir. So it just happens a lot faster now. You think I overdid it on the cable management? Uh-oh. Might be a situation here, guys, where... Oh, I got some long ones here. My bag of long zip ties is over on the other workbench right now. That's like 20 feet away from me. Thankfully, I had some left here from a previous build. These are all extra cables. Yes, it's a modular power supply, but I always like to put them in there just so they don't accidentally vanish on us. They stay with the PC. There should be a power connector floating around here somewhere. Fortunately, I zip tied that. I have to undo that. Okay. Clean up some of this hardware, button it up, get this thing fired up. Maybe Eric can go to bed knowing his PC is done. Or at least built. What do you guys think? Is that cable management crisp? No Native played The Last of Us 2 in native 4K. Nice. 4K upscaled. 9070 XT is a nice 1440p 4K gaming card that anyone would enjoy. Very true. The 9070 XT is a very good card. Yo, what's y'all's thoughts on the 9070 XT? I think the 9070 XT is a great card to go with. There are a few people in here that have that card already, like Steve for one, and believe it or not, the last Intel supporter, or Intel for the win, Roy, is floating around here somewhere in chat. He also has a 9070 XT, and they'll mention, you know, the cards do have some finicky stuff with the drivers, but that was early on think most of the bugs have been, for the most part, worked out. Peak cable management, thank you. Yeah, let's go ahead and button it up and fire it up. Well, really anticipate that. I thought this was pulled taut. I have to fix that. All right. Looks good to go. What do you guys think? Ready to rock and roar? Looks like we're going to have to reposition the camera just a wee bit. All right, Eric, are you here to tell us to push that power button? What's a good CPU for the GPU, Steve? You can run literally any of the X3D Vcache processors from AMD and really get some good performance out of it. Push it, Flash says. Waiting on Eric. Fire it up, Steve says. Let's see if Eric's still here. It's been a minute since I've seen him. He fell asleep. He might have. I mean, it is 11 o'clock on a business day. Icon No Cap Anthony. Hello, random question. I had a driver update. I'm getting 160 FPS before the driver update, and before the update I got 360 consistently. I don't know why. Any tips? Roll back the driver. Could be a driver problem. Do you have an AMD card or a NVIDIA card? Cat, Daddy, Roy, Ben, if you are a single PC streaming, could you say run with a 3060 for streaming and a 5070 for actual game play? Does it need to be the same GPU? It does not need to be the same GPU, Tat. You can do it with different GPUs. So for example, you can run a 5090 with a 3060. That's fine. All right, Eric says fire it up. All right, 3, 2, 1. Please don't blow up. Just kidding. The smoke is from my vape, for the record. All right, it's gonna post. NVIDIA, so how do I roll back the driver, LOL? You can do it in the NVIDIA app now. You should be able to roll back, or if you can't do that, or if you want the cleanest option, just like Steve said, DDU, display driver uninstaller, is what the tool is called. You can run DDU to remove the driver, and then you go get the version that you had previously from the NVIDIA website. That's how you would remove the driver and install the version that you have. And then you just have to make sure you don't do the update. Just waiting for a post here. Still doing its memory training, I think. 64 gigs DDR5 on an X870E, newer board, longer wait time. There we go. There's the post. All right, so PC is built. We've got it posted. Yay! Now we got to do the Windows install, do the BIOS update, do all the driver installs, and then it'll be ready for pickup. Eric? Nice. And there's your RGB. But the idea is to lay it flat on this back panel. This is going to be glass, so this will be the facing up portion for your situation where you're going to be placing it. It will be laying on its back, which is this side. Glass facing up. Says this kind of setup is the worst. If you're doing that, yeah. Typically, you wouldn't. Well, if you are trying to, so a lot of people mistake this. So if you're running 2 GPUs, yes, the second GPU is not going to be getting the same bandwidth as the first GPU, and in some cases, both will share bandwidth. So that is one of the reasons why you wouldn't do it typically, but I do know there are setups out there in some pretty beefy systems that have full bandwidth on those X16s. So there are ways to do it. It's expensive, but it's still in some cases cheaper than buying 2 systems. But I guess it just depends on the use case, Tat, is really what it comes down to. Yeah, it's not going to matter too much if that's all you're using it for, so the encoder, decoder, in my opinion. Unless it impacts the main X16 slot. If it shares bandwidth with that, so you'll have to check your motherboard and see what it does when you have 2 cards set up like this. Yeah, it's the CPU lanes or the PCIe lanes is what it comes down to. So if you have a motherboard that is sharing the bandwidth between all of your PCIe X16 lanes, then yes, it's going to impact your gaming graphics card. So utilizing a second card in your system for streaming and handling the NVENC encoder decoder might actually impact it worse than just running a single card. So there are cases where yes, that will be impactful. But there are systems out there that don't have that shared bandwidth, so, or boards. So you just got to look at your motherboard and see what it does when you plug in a second card into the X16 slot. It should say in the motherboard manual. Yes, it is the Arctic Liquid Freezer 3 Pro. It's a Pro version. Yeah, it's pretty rare to see 2 GPUs in a system nowadays. There's limited use case scenarios. There are bigger cards that we could have gone with. There are workstation professional cards, but they are quite a bit of money. They're more like, you know, over $1,000 versus $600 for 2 cards that'll do the same thing. You know, yes, they're sharing bandwidth in this particular setup, but he's not going to be gaming, so he doesn't need the bandwidth. He just needs the screen resolution. That's all he needs, really. Yeah, you just got to look at your motherboard and your CPU combination and see what reaction you're going to have out of the PCIe lanes. Because every CPU is going to be different on every single motherboard, and every single motherboard is going to be different based on the design. So, and of course, you know, if you go to something like Threadripper, you'll start minimizing those bottlenecks with the PCIe lane bottlenecks. You got more lanes. You got way more lanes on Threadripper. So just, you know, bigger the system, the more lanes you'll have to work with. Going out, thank you for the stream. Awesome as always. You're welcome, Burton. Thank you for stopping in and hanging out with us. Much appreciated. The Flash. I wonder if my board can have 2 GPUs. I mean, it's the B550M, probably not. I would probably say that board is not likely going to be a good support for 2 GPUs. But I wouldn't do it in a gaming system. Yeah, the 5500 is definitely not going to handle that much those PCIe lanes. I mean, you probably could run a second card and it would work. It's just not going to perform like you're thinking it's going to perform. So that's the Arctic Liquid Cooler 3 Flash. The Flash. Ah! Sorry, I had to say your name right. Icon No Cap Anthony, if you need additional help getting the driver rolled back, you could join our Discord channel if you're still here. Not sure if you are, but you could do !Discord in the chat. It'll give you the link to the Discord channel. Join the Discord channel and drop the question inside the support chat. There's a channel for that, and then we can help you further. There's a ton of smart people in there. I can help you. Just may not be instant help from me. I'm running around all the time, so if you post it, just be patient, and I'll get to it and respond. Great stream tonight. The build looks awesome. Thank you, Caden. Appreciate that. Thank you for hanging out with us, Caden, as well. Flash is fine, brothers. The Flash, says. I'm just kidding. I always think of Intel 12th Gen for budget gaming, and those PCIe lanes, no problems on the 12th Gen. Yeah, 12th Gen has some pretty good lane bandwidth. They do. They actually cut down, I think, on the lanes in 13th and 14th Gen compared to 12th Gen. If I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong. But I feel like they did that for something. Can't remember what it was in exchange for. Drawing a blank. Whatever. Nobody really cares. At least. The majority of the people don't even care. So, it's still, I still rock a 12900K for my gaming rig. Yeah, the 12900K is still a great CPU to run. Nothing wrong with it. I would much prefer hearing a 12th gen CPU instead of like a 13900K. Hey, I've been running my 13900K for over a year now, and it's been running great. And then a month later, oh, just all of a sudden doing everything. 13th and 14th gen CPUs, Intel. You know how I feel about them. Frustrating. Why are you calling me out like that, Ben? How am I calling you out? Oh, because you have a 13th or a 14th? Sorry. I thought you had AMD, some giant idiot. For some reason, I thought you did. This PC has a 12900KS in it. Nice. I have 3 PCs, so maybe using another one tomorrow. Very good. Yeah, we got we went from like super slow last week to super insanely busy this week, and it just always so happens to be the week before I go on vacation where it does that, where it's like quiet for like a week or 2 weeks before, and all of a sudden everybody's like, let's do the builds, which I'm not complaining. I like builds. It's just, it's always the week before I leave for our vacation. It's always how it works out. I don't know if it's somebody's planned somewhere, and I don't tell anybody, hey, I'm going on vacation until like that week. Oh, a 13900 KF. It was undervolted and it still died. Yeah. Wick fams, I keep having to tell my friends to take his PC back to Micro Center for help because he has a 14th gen CPU and his PC is blue screening and games are crashing. We still have 3 months of warranty left. Definitely get it back over there because they'll replace it, the CPU at least. And if they don't do that, then they might actually just give you a completely different system, which would be pretty cool. But I don't know what Micro Center is doing for their power spec builds. When they run it, I'm assuming they just replace the CPU for you and then send the other one back. Intel sent you a 14900 KF. A little bit of an upgrade. Yeah, I've got a 13900 K for another customer that came back, but he already switched to AMD, so now it's just a CPU motherboard RAM bundle with a Liquid Freezer 2, Arctic Liquid Freezer 2 420mm AIO that is just sitting over here collecting dust at this point. And I've tried selling it. Nobody wants it. Nobody's buying it. It's a full CPU motherboard RAM bundle with a contact frame with the cooler. Might be the fact that it's a 420mm cooler, which doesn't fit in every case, but I felt like that would sell pretty quick, and I already RMA'd the CPU and got the new one back, so that problem has been solved. But I feel like every time somebody messages me on that motherboard RAM CPU combo, I end up educating them as to why I had to RMA the CPU, and then turns out they don't want to buy Intel. I can't remember the exact price. To be honest, Tat, my brain's just not here today. But I think it was close to like 800 bucks or 900 bucks or something like that. But I mean, it's a fancy MSI board, and it was actually that red and black build that I did with the custom paint job a long time ago. I think that was in like 2023. Might have been 2022. I can't remember what year it was. 2023, I think. And then he called me up like a year later, and he's like, yeah, it's doing this. And I'm like, yeah, that's definitely sounding like a CPU problem. So he brought it over, and I troubleshooted it, and it definitely was a CPU. And he's like, you know what, I'm done with Intel, switch me to AMD, and I'll come pick it up when it's done. And I'm like, jeez. I'm like, what do you want to do with your Intel stuff? And he's like, nah, just sell it and give me the cash when it sells. I'm like, okay. Basically, in the bundle, you're getting the RAM free, just like a micro, and almost the cooler. The cooler's pretty much free too. So you're getting the RAM and the cooler basically free, with the motherboard and a CPU, a replaced 13900K that's already been replaced. I was trying to only sell it as a bundle, but because it's going to be more difficult to sell the components out without it. I mean, I'll separate the cooler. I'll take that out and sell it separately. Or put it in another system or something, or just send him $100 and then put it in use it myself or something. But it only has the Intel brackets because he never gave me back the AMD brackets for the Liquid Freezer 2. That is one of the downsides to that cooler, which is why I wanted to sell it as a bundle with that motherboard, CPU, RAM. We're asking around 800 or 900. I can't remember the exact number, but it's pretty up there. It's a higher end MSI board, and it's a 13900K, and it's 64 gigs of RAM, DDR5, and then a 420 millimeter Liquid Freezer 2. It's actually, in my opinion, a pretty good deal. And the CPU I already made back to Intel, and I got the replacement, so it's a brand new CPU. Not even, well, I used it once to test another system, so I take that back. I was gonna say, not even ever used. No, it's been tested, so. And of course, I'm open to offers. If anybody is interested. It's been sitting here forever. Seeing how Intel did, people was wild, yeah. How much, yeah, I used to be one of those Intel fanboys, but never again. I'm AMD all the way. You know what's funny is probably in the next couple of years, AMD is going to have the similar situation or problem. Something's going to happen, and then everybody's going to flip-flop back to Intel and be like, why did I even leave? It's going to be, yeah, both are going to have ups and downs. Hey, what's up, Hurricane Gamer? Welcome back to the Build Show. Yeah, definitely, Wick fam, definitely tell your buddy to get that PC in there before that warranty expires, because if not, he's just going to be buying a new CPU to keep that PC going. And, you know, one of the cheaper ones would be like a 13600K or something, and that would be like, what, 150-ish, $160, maybe more. Yeah, I can't find a 5800X 3D anymore, new. You can find them used on the used marketplace, like Facebook Marketplace and things like that. But finding them new is damn near impossible. I'm not a fanboy of any company. They are a business, not your friend. That's a good way to look at it, Steve. Just go with... Don't be loyal with your company. Be loyal with your family. I don't know. I don't know what the right way to say. My audio is weird or something. It sounds like you are just inhaled helium. I don't know what to tell you. I hope my audio's working pretty good. Do I have a music or a voice changer on? Could be. I do have a voice changer software. I don't think it's running. Yeah, it's not running. So we're good. Not the voice changer. EGC is always our friend. Oh, thank you. Thank you, some giant idiot. Mike, you think I'll have problems with my i9? Mike, because we started it on the latest BIOS version, it'll take a very, very long time before that happens. And if it does, Intel did extend your warranty for everybody that bought those CPUs. So you do have an extension. For example, a customer that I just sent, I'm sending one back to Intel right now. I just packaged it up. Another one. That's under warranty until 2028. So you at least have until probably 2028, and he ran his for a year. He bought it a year ago, which is about the same time you would have bought yours. So I'd say until about 2028 would be your warranty as well. So if it ever is an issue, Mike, we can tackle it, replace it. Be loyal to your wallet. That's a good one, Ant-Man. I'm navigating this mess just like you guys. So we're just doing it together. All right. Well, there we have it. Eric's build is completed, or at least built, and I've got to get this one wrapped up, and then we'll be doing a couple more builds tomorrow. We're going to be I'm going to try to do a build stream in the early afternoon, or I'm sorry, later afternoon, early evening, and then we're going to do another build in the evening. So if you don't catch the first build in the early afternoon, they're going to be separate streams. So I'll have one stream going around 4 p.m. Eastern time, and then we'll do a second stream later in the evening for a second build. Two separate builds, two separate customers. First one is a customer's bringing me all their hardware, so hopefully everything is good. And then the second one is a build that we're doing for a customer. So exciting. And then we'll also be live again after that on Friday evening for another build. Never mind, I restarted my Twitch and it sounds better. I think it was sped up. Yeah, that makes sense. Eric Dean, thumbs up. Hey, find another I find another 12600K for $99. I'm buying it. Definitely. It's a good deal. Sounds good on my end. Thank you, Flash, for confirming. All right, guys, you have a good rest of your evening. Thank you again for joining us for Eric's build, and we'll see you on the next build show tomorrow afternoon. And then if I don't see you there, tomorrow evening. And if I don't see you there, Friday evening. Have a good night, guys. We'll see you on the next one. And if you are new to the community, you can join the Discord channel by typing in !Discord. So that way you can hang out with us even when we're not streaming, if you wanted to. Have a good night, guys. We'll see you on the next one.